Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
So today, my guest is David Mann. Most folks listening will probably know him as the author of Go Giver. I think he's written over 40 books in 38 languages, over 3 million copies sold.
I wrote them all
in English, and they got translated.
Yep.
But I'm thrilled to have you here to get to talk to you. But could you kind of, John, tell us your backstory, how you became an author, what you were before an author, and all that good stuff?
I like to say Bob Berg, who's my co-author in The Go Giver, and the book was his idea. I like to say that Bob Berg ruined my career. What I mean by that is I was planning to be a screenwriter. That was my plan. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. I was on my way to Hollywood, and Bob said, "Would you help me with this book? I got an idea for a book, but I need you to write it. I don't write this kind of thing. I write how-to stuff. This is a story." I very reluctantly said, "I don't have time for this." It's an interruption, a distraction from what I need to get done. We met and talked about it, and I dabbled in a chapter or two, and then the thing kind of took off. Let me go back. I never set out to be a writer. I didn't go to school for it. There was never a moment where I said, I want to be a writer. I was always planning to be other things. I started out as a classical musician. I played the cello. I was a composer. I won prizes in composing. That was my plan, my career. I got distracted by natural health and that whole world, macrobiotics and natural food. And
a long time ago, like before it was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is like before Truman, before Theodore Roosevelt, long time ago. And I got involved in business through the whole natural foods world. I was in direct selling, and I was an entrepreneur. I started a store, and I started a publishing company with a friend to publish a magazine about environmental stuff and natural foods. Like that was our bent.
I had no idea. That's cool. My wife, John, loves all that stuff.
Mine too.
I'm healthy because of my wife.
We are so smart. We married the right people. My wife was a co-founder of the first Chinese medical school in New England, and she's got the whole background of that sphere. When I was 17, I dropped out of high school to start a school with some friends of mine. We started our own high school, and I went back later and taught at that. So I was always entrepreneurial before I knew what the word meant. But all along the path of that, the education and the music and the natural foods and the direct selling, I was always the guy that people said, "Hey, would you do the newsletter? Would you edit this article? Or would you do this poster?" I always seem to be getting tapped to write stuff or to fix writing. And I ended up spending a good 10 years as an editor. And that's really my education as a writer, is editing other people's stuff.
Okay.
People often get the question, what's a good way to get started as a writer? I think the best way to get started as a writer is to be an editor.
Really?
Fix other people's writing, because you're not as emotionally attached to it. It's somebody else's. It's a great toolbox to develop how to take good ideas that are clothed in maybe mediocre writing and elevate it. That's what I do today. Along the line, I co-wrote a bunch of things and eventually ended up writing books. The Go Giver was my breakout book.
Yeah.
It's still the book I'm best known for. It sold over 1 million copies, and it just hit a lot of chords. I've done a bunch of other stuff. I've written thrillers. Most recently, I had a trilogy of full-length thrillers about a fugitive Navy SEAL who's been accused of war crimes that he didn't commit. At least he's pretty sure he didn't commit them. He's got memory issues. And that was a blast. I've written memoirs for other people. I'm doing one right now. So I've written a wide range of stuff, but I'm best known for the parable business.
How did you and Bob Berg meet?
Actually, we met because I edited his stuff. He submitted articles to a journal that I was working on at the time, a journal I started with a friend. I used to edit people's articles, and I would never hear anything from them. They would submit their pieces, get published, and they would look different when published, but we never heard. Except for every now and then, I got one guy who got very mad and said, "Put it back the way it was." It was terrible. So we didn't. And then I heard from 2 people who said, "What did you do to my stuff? It's so much better." And one of those was Bob. Bob used to say, "You write my stuff better than I write my stuff." So we were friends through me editing his stuff.
He respected you.
Yeah, it was mutual. Bob and I have different backgrounds, but the convergence of backgrounds, we were both involved in sales. This has been a sales trainer for decades. I had a 100,000 person organization in direct selling, and I did that actively for over a decade. And our values and philosophies around selling and business and entrepreneurship really clicked. When he told me his idea for the Go Giver, I clicked right in. It's like half his DNA and half my DNA. If you mixed us in a barrel, that book is the result. And we've done a bunch of others in this series since then. He has been absolutely delightful to work with. He's the same person in private as he is in public. He's a joy, and he's done a fabulous job of promoting the book and awareness about it, which I'm really grateful for. It's just been a great partnership.
John, how many other co-authors get along like that? I mean, is that a unique situation, or is that common?
It's unique. It's not 100% unique in that I've had some other partnerships that have been really great, but Bob's is in a class by itself. I wrote a book with Dan Burris, who was one of the nicest human beings on the planet and also one of the most brilliant. Working with him has just been the same kind of joy. Working with David Bach, the automatic millionaire guy, Smart Women Finish Rich. We did a parable together called The Latte Factor. That was an absolute joy from start to finish. David is a phenomenal guy and was a great working partner. I've had partnerships that didn't go so well. I've had co-authorships that I actually quit before the book was done. I put the kibosh on and said, this is not going to work out because they didn't click. We didn't click, the two of us, because our values didn't click or whatever reasons. It is not common to have a partnership that works out that well.
Well, I just say that because you speak so highly of Bob Burg, but I could tell from the beginning of the story, there was mutual respect. Like he came to you, he knew you made him look so good, but it was mutual. Like you guys needed each other, it sounds like.
Think of myself as a good stylist or hairdresser. No, I thought, you make me look so good. Yeah, we had that mutual respect, still do. Honestly, I have been so fortunate to have that kind of relationship, probably half a dozen other writers. The most recent Go Giver book I wrote with my wife, The Go Giver Marriage. People always ask us, did you fight? No, we had a blast.
How long ago did that come out?
We wrote that during the pandemic.
Okay.
And not coincidentally, there were, marriages were really suffering, and we'd been wanting to do it forever. It's my wife's idea. And so we sat down and did it. And it came out, I think, in 2012, 13, maybe a couple of years back. So it's been out for a few years.
Is it a parable as well?
It is. It's a parable and the sequel to all the other Go Giver parable sequels. My wife has been a family therapist for her whole career.
Had a lot to contribute as well.
Another 50-50 match.
That's beautiful. Talk to me a little bit about, it sounds like you kind of fell into this, right? You were very entrepreneur, you're doing all these things. Had I asked you at 20 years old, what you'd be doing in 5 years or 10 years?
You
never would have
understood my answer. I'm not sure I understand my answer.
Well, that's true of most 20-year-olds. But when you were 20, John, what did you think you'd be doing when you were 30?
I really had no idea.
Screenwriting?
But no, not yet. I'm sorry. That was way later. So no, I was passionately involved in natural foods in my 20s. And I was very absorbed in that world. I was going all over the country teaching stuff. It didn't occur to me. A friend came to me and said, hey, I want to write this newspaper. I was living in upstate New York at the time. This guy said, I want to write this newspaper about environmental stuff and natural food stuff. Will you help me? It's just like kind of the Bob Burg story over again, in a sense. And I said, sure, I'll help. And I had a computer, pre-Macintosh. I had an old K-Pro. I would like print out stuff in columns and cut and paste them the old-fashioned way. So I helped him assemble this newspaper. The day before we were supposed to go to press, he left town. He just vanished. I had this newspaper and nobody to do it with. So I started printing it and writing articles. I produced the whole thing myself for a couple of years. I realized I dig this. I love doing this. I had the ambition at that time to be a publisher and a journalist. And that became a national magazine called Solstice. It did quite well for a few years. And I kind of morphed from that into writing about direct selling and about business. And then that led me to the books I started doing with Bob and others.
How old were you, John, when you wrote Go Giver?
In my 50s. So this whole career as an author of books, it's all happened in the second half of my century.
Well, I think I read a quote from you somewhere, like everyone has a book in them or everyone should write a book.
It's funny. I say the world needs your book. Yeah. Nobody but you can write it. I say that knowing that the people who read that by process of selection are going to be people for whom that's true. I don't think it's true for everybody. I don't think everybody should write a book. I think there's millions of people who should live a wonderful, happy life and never write a book. But the people who gravitate to that message, I think they've got a book in them. At least it's a winnowing tool, that headline.
Well, that's fair. Talk to me, John, about, I mean, your life hasn't always been sunlight and roses, right? There's been ups and downs.
No, there's been horrific stuff, tragedies and terrible things. My first child died at the age of 10 months. This is something I wouldn't wish on anybody. It was horrible. The marriage didn't survive. And yet, from the perspective of many years in the future, looking back at that, I can see that it changed me in ways that have turned out to be good. It gave me much more of a sense of empathy and compassion for other people. I had a lot of immaturity that needed to be burned away. I went bankrupt at one point. My magazine business grew too fast. I got too hungry, too ambitious. I bought up a competitor and absorbed them into my magazine, and now my magazine quadrupled in size, and I couldn't keep up with it. It ended up burying me financially. My second marriage blew up. I'm in my third, and the third time is a charm. A divorce with kids and everything that went with it was horrible. It has definitely not always been sunshiny, but I've always had a fundamental faith in things turning out well.
Meaning you're optimistic about things?
Yeah, basically, I have an enthusiasm, a fascination, and a curiosity about the next frontier, the next horizon.
Okay.
That seems unkillable at this point. So
okay. So would you, John, say you're a visionary?
Yeah, I really have always, the second Go Giver book is called Go Giver Leader, and there's 5 principles of leadership. The first one is to hold a vision for your people, even when they can't. You have to believe in it, especially when they can't believe in it. When everything looks worst, you're the one that holds it up. And I think that's always been something I've gravitated to. I've always been fascinated by leaders and by leadership. My dad was a choral conductor. I played under him in festivals. Watching this guy, very soft-spoken, you couldn't hear my father across a room. But here he is, no baton, just his hands, directing a 100-person choir and probably a 70-piece orchestra. And all of them are just like watching him and listening to him, adoring him, frankly. People loved my dad. It's interesting. It's every bit as much of a leadership example as a CEO or a president or whatever. Fascinates me.
Well, almost maybe more so because they're really in the spotlight. And
yeah, it's authority that you have to earn. There's 2 kinds of conductors, really. There's conductors whose primary tool is fear, and there's conductors whose primary tool is love.
Sure.
And it isn't quite that black and white, but it kind of is. There's great conductors that possess both in good measure. But my dad was a love conductor. He never instilled fear in a soul. It's interesting.
Yeah. Going back to being visionary, you dropped out of school at 17. To the whole health food movement, you write these books. You've always had more vision than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible and even easy to have vision with naivete. Vision has got to be followed up with action, and with substantive action, with consistent and persistent action, as well as intelligent action. Although even dumb action can get results if you pay attention to feedback, right?
True. It's better than no action.
I am a huge believer in that. The school was a great example. I had a couple of friends who were talking about, what would it be like if we had our own school? And I was like, wow, I gotta be in on that. My best friend and I got in those meetings and we started talking with them. I went home and told my parents, I said, we want to start a school. And they said, awesome, do it. And I went to drop out of school and they said, cool, do it. I dropped out of high school and spent my whole junior year of high school working on building this school. And I was the only kid who dropped out, who had full time to do this. We hired an adult to be our director. And so he was a novelist who also had a fantastic background in education. And he and I spent all day, every day, building a foundation of a school. The next year, there was a school. Lo and behold, and it ran for 10 years. And we sent graduates on to Harvard and Yale and state colleges around the country. And we had 50 kids. We had, at one point, 45 kids and 50 subjects. We were learning so much. We wanted to drop out of school, not because we didn't want to learn anything, it's because we wanted to do something. Our school was just more. We wanted more. We wanted to learn interesting stuff.
It's incredible. I've never heard that story. Someone dropping out of school to start a school. That's a pretty good story. It was successful. It was very successful. Think about the impact of people who went to that school that are better people because they did.
Oh, yeah. And people have come out of that school and done, and had fabulous careers, intriguing, unusual, trailblazing careers. Not all, but there have been quite a few. I'm glad that I've already pointed out that I had a magazine that went bankrupt. The point isn't that everything I've touched turned to gold. No, some stuff I touched turned to mud.
I wanted to talk about that because sitting here with you, you're smiling, you're laughing. You've sold 3 million books, 38 languages. You've written a lot of books, a lot of articles. Like everyone can see the success, but a lot of times they don't realize the hard work, the long nights, the early mornings it took to get these things to the finish line. So could you talk about that for a little bit? Just like the drive, the consistency, the intentionality it takes.
Yeah. I mean, sure. My work ethic is insane. A lot of people have heard this story, but when we had the first draft of our manuscript of The Go-Giver finished, I got an agent through an unlikely series of connections that weren't under my control. It kind of fell into our lap in a beautiful way. I found an agent who loved the manuscript, agreed to take it on, took it to New York. Bob and I had no connections in the New York publishing world. This agent, who it turned out was the same agent who had first sold The 1 Minute Manager, which had started her career as an agent. So not too shabby. And she took it to New York with high expectations. Publisher after publisher turned it down. Over a dozen publishers said, we like it. It's good. No. Everyone for a different reason. So we took it back. And my agent scribbled some notes on the first few pages. Basically, editing, slashing, rewriting, deleting, just thought it could be improved, tightened up. And I took it and completely rewrote the whole book. It was mainly stylistic. The first book was overwritten. There was just too much in it. The basic ideas were all the same in the new draft. It's the same book, but rewritten and stripped down, streamlined, made more lean, clean. And
how many words is Go-Giver?
Probably 24,000. Okay. It's short. We took it back to New York, and we ended up getting a total of 22 rejections. And number 23 said, I want it. That would never have happened without a year's worth of rewriting. And it's not a long book. I've also done that with 400-page books, but it was a lot of rewriting. I have a coaching program, and the biggest part of the program is the rewriting program. It's really hard to get a first draft. Most people who start to write a book never finish a draft. For all kinds of human reasons. It's because we don't finish difficult things. Writing is particularly difficult because you're making stuff up out of thin air. It isn't like cleaning the basement. That's hard to get started, but you can always just pick up boxes and move them. With writing, people write a few sentences or paragraphs, look at it and say, this is crap, and get discouraged and quit. If you can get to the first draft, that's phenomenal. That's a great accomplishment, which most aspiring writers don't make. But honestly, that's when the work starts. I've never seen a first draft that's publishable. A first draft is always crappy, crummy, sloppy, overwritten, underwritten, gaps, holes, inconsistencies. But it's a good start. But that's all. You have to have, the bulk of the skill set of an accomplished writer is the work ethic of the rewrite, which is like being a human being, right? You start out, a teenager is a first draft.
You said earlier in the podcast that you think the place to start is as an editor because it's the most important. Yeah. So I'm writing a book, and where I'm at is right there. I got the rough draft done. I refuse to do much editing. It is so much work to edit. Part of it's because the emotions of these things you put in, so you have to cut them, but you really like them.
It's like saying no to your child. You love this kid. You think this kid is amazing. And you want to say, sure. Watch the whole movie. Stay up until 1 o'clock. Go for it. It's delicious. You don't want to say no to your writing, but you got to. It's undisciplined.
Yeah.
But here's the beautiful thing about it. The more you rewrite, the more you exercise that muscle, the brighter the gold within gleams. There's great stuff in there. Most of the greatest stuff in writing is covered up by brambles and bushes and dirt. If you clean it up, suddenly what I know of no greater joy than working through a passage and looking at it when it's fishing, going, oh my God, that's beautiful. I just finished editing a memoir by a guy in my program who's got this magnificent, gorgeous memoir of growing up in war-torn Bangladesh. It's an incredible story, but it was just a little bit covered up by overwriting, sorting through and clearing away some of the dead wood so that the thing underneath can shine. It's a joy. It's like watching your kid grow up and become an amazing adult.
John, is less more in writing?
But you have to do more first to get to the less.
And that's why you just have to write the rough draft, get it out,
Overwrite it, pour it all in there. If you have an idea, put it in.
and then edit later.
Don't edit while you cannot edit as you write.
I did it partway through, and it was such a time suck, and it was such a detour. And I had to just go back to, I'm not doing this. Just keep going.
And I think there's a really good reason for that, because it is completely different states of mind, different faculties that you use, generate content. And then to go back, because you generate it with full emotion and your full feeling and your full experience, you bring your heart and soul to it and you pour it all on the page. When you go back to examine it and to edit it, there's a kind of a cold calculation about that. You have to divorce yourself from the emotion of it. And the way I like to, and I don't think this is original to me, I imagine Hemingway said this, but is you write drunk and edit sober. Or it's like, be promiscuous as a writer, as an editor, you're a prude. It's a whole different mindset. And so to try to be doing them while you're writing is like stamping in the accelerator, stamping in the brakes. You just burn out your engine.
Yeah, that's good.
Congratulations on your draft. Persevere, man, persevere. There's gold in them there hills.
It's going to be good. There's times I read it and I'm like, man, I can't believe I wrote this. This is good. This didn't come from me.
I see so many books, particularly self-published books, that break my heart. People finish their book, publish it on Amazon, they're excited, and they send me a copy. They say, hey, here's my book. And I open it, and I'm just like, oh, stab me. Because there's a beautiful idea in there, or story in there, or expertise in there. And it's like a cake that someone didn't bake yet. It's a raw pudding in a bowl. It's not laid out well. The interior design of the book isn't clean, and it looks like a self-published book. When you self-publish, you have to have production values as if you were with a publisher. If you publish with a publisher, you have to promote as if you'd self-published. Because publishers don't promote for you.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
What do you get out of a publisher? What's their name?
First of all, you get a ready-made team of professionals to do the important jobs. Editing, copy editing, and proofreading that the book needs after the main editing. To do the interior layout. To work on professional cover designs. Professional cover, no author should ever design their own cover.
I agree. I've
done it a few times, and it has been a mistake every time.
No, I've already handed that off.
It's so true. Even the title, it's good to have. The first thing you get is the team. You also get certain avenues of distribution. A book might get presented to professional reviewers like Booklist or Library Journal. You might get, when you go on Amazon, you see a book and you see there's like Booklist review or Library Journal review or Kirkus reviews. A publisher will submit to those. A publisher will submit your book to traditional distribution channels. They might get your book in big box stores. They might get your book in bookstores in ways that you can't necessarily do. So they can get you distribution. They get you great production. In some cases, affiliation with their name. If your book says William Morrow or Harper, that could be more prestigious and give your book a leg up in terms of how many people look at it. Although I'd put that somewhere lower on the list, but that's...
I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives, to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.